Do you hear it, Jaden? The river never forgets, and it never forgives. What will it take from you tonight?
Once upon a time, along the mighty Mississippi River, where its waters wove like a silver ribbon between ancient oak forests and swaying reeds, there lay an old African-American community. This lively little village, full of spirit, was called Willow Creek. Nestled in a serene corner of Georgia, the village felt like a world of its own, a place where people and nature intertwined, crafting stories both simple and steeped in mysticism. The Mississippi River, with its ceaseless flow, was the soul of Willow Creek. It was not merely a source of life, offering fresh fish daily to the villagers. It was also the center of their spiritual practices and ancient traditions. The villagers believed the river possessed a mystical power, part nurturing mother, part stern judge. Every ripple, every gentle splash, and every whisper of the breeze over the water carried a meaning only those who truly listened could understand. In this small community, two brothers, Malik and Jaden, stood out. They were skilled fishermen and the pride of Willow Creek. Every dawn, before the sun even peaked above the horizon, their silhouettes could be seen gliding across the water. While the rest of the village slumbered, the soft dip of oars and the glint of their nets in the early morning mist signaled the start of a new day. Malik, the elder brother, was the embodiment of calm and responsibility. Towering with broad shoulders that seemed to carry the weight of the river itself, his thoughtful gaze seemed to hold the secrets of nature. Malik was a pillar of support, not only for Jaden but for the entire village. He never rushed, never acted in haste. Malik believed the river would always provide what they needed, so long as they treated it with reverence and care. Malik was the one villagers turned to for advice. From major decisions like when to cast their nets, to personal matters like picking an auspicious day for a wedding, his words always carried weight. Yet, Malik never boasted. His steady humility was the very reason he commanded such respect. "The river gives us what we need," Malik often told Jaden as they hauled in their nets together. "But it can take everything away if we don't honor it." Unlike his brother, Jaden was a vibrant energy, always brimming with restlessness. With a lean, athletic build and a radiant smile, Jaden embodied youth, passionate, daring, and occasionally reckless. He disliked the monotony of daily life, casting nets, catching fish, and selling them. To Jaden, the Mississippi was not a boundary, but a gateway. He dreamed of grand cities, wealth, and adventures that lay far beyond their humble village. "One day, I'll leave this place," Jaden declared to Malik one morning as the first rays of sunlight kissed the water. "I want more than what this river can offer." Malik simply smiled, saying nothing. He understood his younger brother, but he also knew the river had its own way of teaching lessons no one could anticipate. The contrast between two brothers. The relationship between Malik and Jaden was a perfect balance, like two sides of a coin. Malik was the anchor, the grounding force, while Jaden was the wind, eager to break free. Despite their contrasting personalities, they worked as a seamless team. While Malik steadied the boat with patience, Jaden swiftly cast the nets, his sharp eyes never missing a single ripple in the water. The villagers often called them the perfect duo. Malik was the cool head, while Jaden was the fiery heart. But this contrast also sowed the seeds of potential conflict. Malik was content with what he had, while Jaden always craved more. And while Malik respected the river's unwritten rules, Jaden sought to break them. Willow Creek wasn't as tranquil as it appeared. The Mississippi, beautiful and alluring, held its share of whispered mysteries. The village elders spoke of the river's soul, an ancient entity guarding it against trespass. Some claimed to have seen lights shimmering beneath its surface, as though eyes were watching from the depths. "Never test the river," warned Amara, the village elder, to the young men. "It's kind, but it's also dangerous. The most beautiful things are often the most perilous." These tales often made Malik ponder, but Jaden would only scoff. "Just stories to scare kids," he'd say. Yet even as he laughed, a flicker of curiosity lingered in his eyes. a curiosity that would soon lead him down an irreversible path. A fateful morning. One early morning before the sun had risen high, Jaden and Malik rowed their boat through thick, heavy mist. The air was still, broken only by the soft lapping of water against the boat's wooden hull. Suddenly a sound pierced the silence. It wasn't the wind, nor the call of birds. It was a melody, sweet, haunting, and strangely enchanting. "Did you hear that?" Jaden whispered, stopping mid-row. "Maybe it's just the wind," Malik replied, though a trace of worry flickered in his eyes. Jaden didn't heed his brother's caution. He turned the boat toward the sound, his curiosity pulling him like an invisible thread. Malik hesitated, but eventually followed. The closer they got, the clearer the melody became, as though it was calling their names. And then, through the mist, a figure appeared, shimmering faintly in the pale light. What lay before them left them both speechless. A woman floated on the water, her skin gleaming like silver, her hair cascading like waves. But what struck them most was not her beauty. It was her legs, or rather, the lack of them. Instead, she had a fish-like tail, glistening with scales as radiant as pearls. Malik recoiled while Jaden couldn't tear his gaze away. "Help me," she pleaded, her voice soft yet filled with sorrow. Malik gripped Jaden's arm, pulling him back. "We don't know who or what she is. This could be dangerous." But Jaden was captivated. Shrugging off his brother's hold, he stepped closer to the mysterious woman, ignoring all warnings. The dawn in Willow Creek was usually breathtaking, but that morning, something felt different. The air seemed heavier, and the Mississippi River lay eerily still. There were no gentle ripples against the banks, no birds singing from the forest as usual. Only the familiar silhouettes of Malik and Jaden could be seen rowing their boat out onto the river, preparing for the day ahead. Malik, with his calloused hands and calm demeanour, focused intently on guiding the oars. He felt a strange unease, but chose not to voice it. Malik had always believed the Mississippi River had a soul, that it was more than just flowing water but a living entity, watching their every move. Yet, he never allowed those thoughts to control him. Jaden, on the other hand, was oblivious to the strange atmosphere. His youthful energy shone through as he gazed at the misty water, his lips softly whistling a cheerful tune. "Don't you feel something's off?" Malik broke the silence, his voice cutting through the stillness. "The river is too quiet today." "Maybe you're just imagining it," Jaden replied with a confident smile. "It's still the Mississippi, Malik. Nothing to worry about." But at that moment they both heard it. A strange sound, soft like a whisper, but unmistakable. It wasn't the sound of water nor the call of birds. It was a song. A sweet melody drifted from afar, as if the river itself had begun to sing. "Did you hear that?" Jaden stopped rowing, his eyes narrowing in the direction of the sound. Malik nodded, but his brows furrowed deeply. "Probably just the wind through the reeds," he said, though his tone lacked conviction. "It's not the wind." Jaden shook his head. "Listen carefully. Someone's singing." Before Malik could stop him, Jaden had already turned the boat toward the sound. Malik, realizing he couldn't deter his brother, reluctantly followed. "Jaden, you shouldn't do this," Malik warned. "We don't know what's waiting for us out there." But Jaden seemed driven by an invisible force. The closer they got, the clearer the melody became, sweet as a lullaby, yet tinged with an eerie, inexplicable feeling. And then, through the dense mist, a strange figure began to emerge. A woman floated on the water, her silver-tinged skin shimmering under the soft morning light. Her long black hair cascaded like a flowing stream over her slender shoulders. But what left them speechless wasn't her beauty, it was her form. Instead of legs, she had a large fish-like tail, its iridescent scales reflecting the sunlight in brilliant hues. "Help me!" her voice called out, gentle yet pleading, like the very song they had heard moments before. Her wide, sorrowful eyes locked onto Jaden, silently begging for his aid. Malik immediately grabbed Jaden's arm, pulling him back. "Jaden, no, we don't know who or what she is." This could be dangerous. But Jaden was already mesmerized, unable to tear his gaze from the woman. Look at her, Malik. She needs us. Jaden's voice was resolute, brimming with determination. Malik stared at the figure before them. A part of him wanted to help, but his instincts screamed that this was not ordinary. Jaden, not everything beautiful is safe. This river holds secrets we shouldn't meddle with, he said, his tone more urgent. You can stay there and be afraid, Jaden retorted, stepping to the edge of the boat. He crouched down, peering at the woman, his eyes filled with compassion. Are you stuck? The woman nodded, her lips trembling. The branches have trapped me. I can't free myself. Please help me. Without hesitation, Jaden knelt and began untangling the branches and moss clinging to her tail. His hands trembled, not from fear but from an inexplicable surge of emotion coursing through him. Malik stood back, his watchful eyes filled with tension as he observed his brother's every move. Finally, Jaden removed the last branch. The woman drew back, her tear-filled eyes gazing at him with gratitude. Thank you, she whispered, her voice as soft as the morning breeze. I'm Nia. Jaden, he introduced himself, his voice still shaky. This is my brother, Malik. Malik said nothing, his silence heavy with caution. Nia, however, paid him no attention. Her gaze remained fixed on Jaden, as if they had known each other for a lifetime. I don't know how to thank you, Nia said, extending her hand. In her palm lay a small, radiant seashell, gleaming like a fragment of a rainbow. Take this. It's a gift from the river, as a token of my gratitude. Jaden accepted the gift, and as his fingers brushed its smooth surface, a jolt of energy coursed through him. His heartbeat quickened, its rhythm echoing in his ears. Thank you, Nia, he said, his voice catching in his throat. Nia smiled faintly. Goodbye, Jaden. She whispered, before retreating into the water. Her form dissolved into the mist, leaving behind only a faint glimmering trail. Returning to the village, Jaden was no longer himself. He couldn't focus on anything, his mind consumed by visions of Nia, her eyes, her voice, her mesmerizing tale. He knew he had experienced something extraordinary, but he also sensed it was only the beginning. Malik, on the other hand, couldn't hide his worry. He noticed a profound change in his brother, a distraction, an unfamiliar longing that hadn't been there before. Malik tried to talk to him, but Jaden evaded every attempt. That night, while the village slept, Jaden quietly left their wooden house. He walked straight to the riverbank, where the moonlight danced on the water like a silver mirror. Sitting at the edge, he stared into the stillness, hoping for another glimpse of Nia. And as if she had read his thoughts, Nia appeared. Her shimmering tail reflected the moonlight, her face radiant yet tinged with sadness. I knew you'd be here, she said, her voice gentle but resonant in the quiet night. Jaden smiled, his heart pounding. I couldn't stay away. There's something about you. I can't explain it. Nia tilted her head, her eyes sparkling. The river has connected us, Jaden, and once connected, nothing can sever that bond. From the moment Jaden met Nia by the Mississippi River, his life was never the same. The shimmering brightness of the mermaid's eyes, her enchanting song and her tail that sparkled like silver moonlight were etched into his memory, impossible to erase. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't focus on anything else. Her image haunted his every thought, every dream. During the day, Jaden struggled to hide his distraction while working alongside Malik, but his wandering eyes and the times he carelessly spilled the nets didn't escape his brother's notice. Malik said nothing, though his cautious eyes lingered on Jaden, watching him closely. At night, when the village was cloaked in darkness, Jaden quietly slipped out of the house. He walked along the riverbank, his eyes searching the moonlit waters through the shadows of night. In his heart, there was only one longing, to see Nia again. And then, the miraculous happened. One night, as the crickets chirped and the soft waves lapped against the shore, Jaden heard the familiar sound, a melodic, sweet song, as mesmerizing as it was haunting. He held his breath, his heart racing, his feet moving instinctively toward the sound. "I knew you'd come back," Nia's gentle voice called out, carrying with it a mysterious smile. Jaden couldn't hide his joy. "I knew you'd return. I can't stop thinking about you," he confessed, his voice trembling with emotion. They sat together by the riverbank, the moonlight casting an ethereal glow over the water. Nia began to share with Jaden tales of her underwater world, a place she described as a hidden paradise. "Beneath the Mississippi, there are ancient cities buried deep in the earth," she said, her eyes sparkling as though recalling a distant memory. "Pearls larger than anything humans have ever seen, coral reefs that glow in the dark. It's where my sisters and I live, a world no human can ever touch." Jaden listened, spellbound and wide-eyed. He asked about everything, her life, her family, and the secrets she hinted at, but Nia always held something back, leaving parts of her story untold. "This river isn't just beautiful. It carries dangerous secrets, things mankind should never uncover," she warned. But Jaden didn't care. He only wanted to be near her, no matter the cost. Night after night, Jaden sank deeper into Nia's world. He didn't realize that with every meeting, he was growing further away from his family and his village. Malik began to worry as he noticed his brother's frequent disappearances into the night, but Jaden dismissed all of Malik's warnings. Then one night, as Jaden waited by the river for Nia, he heard the sound of rushing water in the distance. He turned, and this time, it wasn't Nia who appeared. A different mermaid rose slowly from the water, her long black hair glistening under the moonlight, her piercing eyes cold and commanding. She didn't sing, but her presence was just as captivating. "You're Jaden," she said confidently. "I am Zola." Zola was nothing like Nia. Where Nia was gentle and mysterious, Zola exuded strength and passion. She didn't speak much about her world, but instead stirred in Jaden a burning desire for adventure. "This river isn't just a place to fish or gaze upon," she said, her eyes locking onto his. "It's a treasure, an opportunity. If you're brave enough, you can have it all." Her words enthralled Jaden. From that night on, he sought out not only Nia, but also Zola. Her boldness and allure made her impossible to resist. When Jaden thought he had learned all there was to know about the river, another surprise awaited him. One night, as he sat by the river waiting for Zola, yet another mermaid emerged from the water. "You're Jaden, aren't you?" she asked, her voice as soft as a breeze. Jaden nodded, astonished by her peculiar beauty. This mermaid, Ammani, was unlike Nia or Zola. She was quiet and tender, with an air of melancholy. Jaden couldn't quite understand. "I've been watching you for some time," she admitted. "There's something different about you. Something I want to understand." Ammani didn't reveal much about the river, but when she spoke, Jaden felt a depth he couldn't explain. She told him of ancient temples buried beneath the Mississippi, spirits trapped within, and curses no one dared to break. "The river never forgets," Ammani whispered, her voice laced with mystery. "Every action leaves a mark, and sometimes the river gives back what you least expect." Jaden didn't fully grasp her words, but Ammani's presence gave him a sense of peace, different from Zola's fiery energy or Nia's enchanting sweetness. Jaden found himself unable to stay away from any of the three mermaids. Every night, he snuck out of his home, spending time with one of them. Each brought him a unique feeling. Nia offered tenderness and mystery. Zola ignited in him ambition and boldness. Ammani made him feel as though he was touching the deepest secrets of the river. But this very connection began to unravel Jaden. He started hiding the mermaids from each other, weaving a web of deceit. He believed he could keep everything under control, but the river began to change. The once calm waters grew restless, and gentle breezes turned into howling winds, carrying whispers of warning from nature itself. Malik grew increasingly concerned, but Jaden ignored every caution. The relationships between Jaden and the mermaids began to sour. The loving gazes they once gave him now harbored suspicion. Zola noticed Jaden wasn't hers alone, and Ammani sensed something amiss. The Mississippi, as though sensing the chaos, grew more turbulent. The soft murmurs of the water became a roaring symphony, echoing across the banks. Jaden didn't realize he had entered a dangerous game, a game where the river made the rules. And as the truth began to surface, Jaden would have to face consequences he never imagined. Every night, as the moon shimmered on the water, the mermaids appeared, bringing Jaden exquisite gifts from the depths of the river. Nya, with her gentle and mysterious aura, placed in his hands pure white pearls that gleamed like moonlight. Zola, bold and passionate, brought dazzling gemstones, vivid and colourful, like the fragmented light of a kaleidoscope. Ammani, quiet and enigmatic, gifted him magical seashells, each reflecting the light as if it were a piece of the starry sky. At first, Jaden carefully kept these gifts as treasured tokens, symbols of the magical connection he shared with the mermaids. But soon, he began to feel different. He was no longer just an ordinary young man living in a small riverside village. These gifts made him feel special, as though he had been chosen to uncover secrets no one else could touch. "No one in the village understands what I have," he told himself, his eyes sparkling as he gazed at the growing collection of treasures. The ember of pride within him began to ignite, spreading like a fire. The long nights by the river transformed Jaden. He was no longer the eager, open-hearted boy who shared his joys and struggles with his family. Instead, he became distant, shrouded in mystery. The mornings spent rowing with Malik now felt heavy with silence. Elena, Jaden's fiancée, noticed the change more than anyone else. Once the person Jaden confided in most, she now received only distracted glances and curt replies. "Jaden, what's happening to you?" Elena asked, her eyes filled with worry. "You're not yourself anymore. You don't even want to talk to me." Jaden shrugged, avoiding her gaze. "Elena, you wouldn't understand. I have more important things to focus on." Those words pierced Elena's heart like a dagger. She waited for him every night, hoping he would return to being the man she once loved. But Jaden seemed to drift further away, as if an invisible tether was pulling him toward the river and its dark secrets. Malik, the wise and steady older brother, couldn't ignore Jaden's transformation. He noticed the strange gifts his brother brought home, pearls, gemstones, and seashells so extraordinary they seemed almost unreal. Malik didn't know what Jaden had done to obtain them, but he sensed a looming danger. "Jaden, I don't know what you're doing, but remember," Malik said, his voice grave, "everything from the river comes at a price." Jaden smirked, his eyes glinting with arrogance. "You worry too much, Malik. The river has chosen me. Can't you see? I've been blessed with these gifts. You should be proud of me, not concerned." Malik frowned. "Jaden, this river isn't just a source of life. It holds secrets we should never challenge. You can't take everything without paying the price." But Jaden didn't listen. To him, Malik's words were merely the jealousy of someone who couldn't understand his uniqueness. As the gifts from the river multiplied, so did Jaden's greed. He was no longer satisfied with what he had. He wanted more. Larger pearls, brighter gemstones, more extraordinary treasures that only the river could provide. Each night, he met the mermaids, demanding more. "Zola, these gems are beautiful, but I know you can bring me something even more valuable," he said, his eyes blazing with ambition. Zola frowned but eventually agreed. "Just this once, Jaden, but understand, the river is not an endless treasure chest." Ammani, too, began to show signs of concern. "Jaden, you're taking too much. The river won't stay silent if you keep this up." But Jaden ignored their warnings. He felt as though he held the power of the Mississippi in his hands, and nothing could stop him. Jaden's arrogance didn't just alienate his family, it pushed him away from his community as well. The villagers began to whisper about his absence from gatherings, his haughty demeanor, and the way he acted as though he were above them all. "Jaden isn't the same anymore," an elder remarked. "The river has changed him." Eleanor, who had loved him with all her heart, now felt as though she was in love with a stranger. She turned to Malik, hoping he could bring Jaden back. "Malik, you have to do something. Jaden is slipping away from all of us. I don't recognize him anymore," Elena said, tears streaming down her face. Malik could only sigh. He understood Elena's pain, but he also knew that Jaden wouldn't listen to anyone. While Jaden reveled in his gifts and secret meetings, the river began to change. The gentle waves of the past grew more turbulent. The once soft breezes turned into fierce winds, carrying whispers that felt like warnings. One night, as Jaden stood by the river, he noticed the water starting to swirl, as though the river itself was awakening. Instead of fear, he felt exhilaration. This river belongs to me, he thought, his eyes glowing with ambition. I can take whatever I want. But what Jaden didn't realize was that with each gift he accepted, the river lost a part of its tranquility. The price he would have to pay was already forming, like ripples growing into waves preparing to unleash a storm. Jaden's long, emotion-filled nights by the river could not remain hidden forever. One evening, as moonlight stretched across the Mississippi, the three mermaids, Nia, Zola, and Ammani, crossed paths by chance. Their eyes met in the dim light, and the silent promises Jaden had made to each of them hung heavy in the air, now exposed as betrayal. "What are you doing here, Nia?" Zola demanded, her piercing eyes glinting with suspicion. "I could ask you the same question," Nia replied, her voice trembling with pain she could no longer conceal. "I came to see Jaden. He belongs to me. To you." Ammani stepped forward from the shadows, her tone sharp. "He promised to stay with me. I'm carrying his child." All three mermaids froze, stunned into silence. The stillness lasted only a moment before the storm of accusations erupted. "He deceived all of us!" Zola roared, her fists clenched as though she might crush the feelings boiling inside her. Nia, the gentlest of the three, could no longer hold her composure. Her eyes filled with tears as she whispered, "I trusted him. I thought this love was real." Ammani, usually the quiet one, spoke with a voice as cold as the river's depths. "He will pay for this. No one can betray us without facing the consequences." The three mermaids stood by the river, each carrying a wound too deep to heal. Tears fell from their eyes, mixing with the waters of the Mississippi like bitter rain. Their cries echoed, not just across the surface of the water, but deep within the heart of the river itself. These sounds, filled with anguish and betrayal, stirred the once peaceful Mississippi. The calm waters began to ripple, each wave rising as if to respond to the pain of the river's daughters. Unbeknownst to them, their sorrowful cries had awakened an ancient force, the river goddess, the guardian of these vast waters. From the depths of the Mississippi, a majestic figure emerged. Water swirled around her as waves bowed in reverence. Her hair flowed long and radiant, glimmering like sunlight on water, and her eyes shone like hidden pearls from the riverbed. The three mermaids immediately bowed, their heads lowered in respect before the river goddess. She said nothing at first, her sharp gaze sweeping over the scene before her. Her three daughters, bearing the weight of betrayal, and a man standing nearby, trembling as he realized there would be no escape from judgment. "Jaden," the goddess spoke, her voice a thunderous echo that reverberated across the river. "Do you even understand what you've done?" Jaden fell to his knees, his hands shaking. "My lady, I didn't mean to. I didn't know it would come to this." "Didn't mean to?" she thundered, her glowing eyes narrowing. "You exploited the love and trust of my daughters. You took from the river what was never yours to take. You were greedy and selfish, forgetting that everything in life comes at a cost." As the goddess's words filled the air, the Mississippi grew wild. Great waves rose and fell, and powerful winds howled through the trees lining the banks. The water swirled into a furious vortex, as if ready to devour everything in its path. Jaden looked up in terror. The treasures he had once cherished, pearls, gemstones, magical seashells, were swept away by the raging river. They glittered momentarily before vanishing beneath the churning waters, leaving no trace. "The river gave you an opportunity," the goddess declared, "and you destroyed it with your greed and arrogance. Now the river will take everything back." The mermaids, though heartbroken, remained silent. They gazed at Jaden, their eyes filled with both sorrow and unshakable resolve. As the river reclaimed everything Jaden had taken, the mermaids prepared to leave. Nia, Zola, and Ammani each bowed to the river goddess before slipping back into the water. Each carried with her a child, their children with Jaden, proof of the love they had once given him and the legacy of his betrayal. "We will raise these children with love," Nia said softly, her voice steady with determination. "They will never know the mistakes of their father." Zola, her eyes blazing with fury, added, "Jaden, you've lost your chance to be part of this family. We will never forget what you've done." Ammani, her usual calm tinged with cold finality, whispered, "The river never forgives, but it also never forgets. You will live to bear the weight of what you've done." And with that, they vanished beneath the surface, leaving Jaden alone on the riverbank. The river goddess turned her piercing gaze to Jaden one last time. "You will live in solitude without family, without love. What you took from the river will never return, and you will face the emptiness you have created." With a single commanding gesture, the goddess disappeared, taking with her the fury of the river. The Mississippi gradually calmed, its surface once again serene, but in the stillness, an unbreakable curse lingered over Jaden. He collapsed on the riverbank, his empty hands trembling, his heart heavy with regret. Memories of Nya, Zola, and Ammani tormented him, reminding him of all he had lost. From that day forward, Jaden lived in solitude. He returned to the village no longer the proud man who flaunted treasures from the river. Instead, he became a shadow of himself, a living reminder of the cost of greed and betrayal. Jaden returned to Willow Creek as a stranger in his own village. No longer did he carry the proud gaze or the magical gifts from the river. Instead, he walked with the demeanor of a broken man. The villagers, who once admired him with a mix of envy and awe, now simply shook their heads in quiet pity. Jaden's house, once filled with laughter and hope, was now cold and empty. He sat by an old wooden table, his calloused hands resting on his knees, his hollow eyes gazing toward the Mississippi. Memories flooded over him, like waves crashing against the shore, reminding him of everything he had lost. Elena, the woman who once loved him more than herself, had found happiness with Damien, a man who truly deserved her. From a distance, Jaden watched as Eleanor smiled, her eyes glowing as Damien held her hand with a tenderness Jaden had never shown her. "That could have been me," Jaden whispered, his voice heavy with regret. Malik, the steadfast older brother, saw Jaden's collapse as more than just his siblings' tragedy. It was a cautionary tale for the entire village. Malik began sharing Jaden's story with the younger generation. In the evenings, by the firelight, children gathered around Malik, their eyes wide, hanging on his every word. "Jaden was once a talented, promising young man," Malik began, his voice warm but stern. "But greed blinded him. What the river gives is never free. Everything comes at a price, and Jaden paid with his life as he knew it." He paused, letting his words sink in before continuing. "Greed doesn't just take away what we hold dear, it hurts the people who love us. Remember, the most valuable things in life are not riches but love and honesty." The children sat silently, their gazes occasionally drifting toward the river, as though they could hear its distant whispers. Jaden, now leading a simple life, tried to atone for his mistakes by helping the villagers. He rose early each day, casting his nets and working tirelessly. Yet every night when the village fell asleep, he would return to the riverbank. There he would sit at the water's edge, quietly listening. The Mississippi, once the source of his downfall, had become his silent companion. At times, Jaden felt as though the river spoke to him, its soft murmurs carrying echoes of the mermaid's voices, reminding him of all he had done wrong. One night, as the moon hung high in the sky, Jaden heard a familiar sound, a gentle, sweet song echoing over the water. His head shot up, his eyes widening, his heart pounding in his chest. "No, it can't be," he murmured, his feet moving of their own accord toward the water's edge. The silver moonlight illuminated a familiar figure reflected in the river. It was Naya, the first mermaid he had ever loved, the one who had introduced him to the secrets and beauty of the underwater world. "Naya?" Jaden called softly, his voice trembling. But Naya didn't answer. She simply looked at him, her gaze no longer soft and tender but firm, tinged with sorrow. You still have a chance, Jaden, Naya's voice echoed, gentle yet commanding. The river does not forget, but it also does not entirely close its doors. If you wish to redeem yourself, prepare. A greater challenge awaits you. Jaden stood frozen, stunned. Before he could speak, Nia disappeared, blending seamlessly into the water. Her words left Jaden restless. He didn't know what challenge she had meant, but deep in his heart he felt that his story wasn't over. Malik noticed the shift in Jaden's demeanour. "What's on your mind, Jaden?" he asked. Jaden looked at his brother, a newfound determination shining in his eyes. "Brother, maybe I haven't lost everything. The river, it might still give me a chance to make things right." Malik placed a reassuring hand on Jaden's shoulder and nodded. "If you truly want to start over, I'll stand by you. But remember, everything must begin with truth and honesty." Jaden nodded, his gaze fixed on the river. A faint glimmer of hope sparked in his heart, faint but strong. Jaden's story didn't end there. The weight of what he had lost remained heavy, but he understood that he had a chance to make amends. Will Jaden be able to face the new challenges ahead? Will the Mississippi offer him a second chance? And you, dear audience, what do you think Jaden will do next? Do you believe he can redeem himself? Share your thoughts in the comments below and don't forget to hit like if you enjoyed this story. Follow our channel to ensure you don't miss part 2, where Jaden will confront the greatest challenges of his life. If you are part of the African American community, share this tale with your friends, family and loved ones across the United States to help preserve our culture, history and folklore. And don't forget to turn on notifications for more captivating stories. Will Zuri return to the river? How will the story of Maple Creek unfold? Stay tuned for the next installment